My lineage is that I'm a 7th generation descendant from Fletcher Christian and his Tahitian bride Motua. My grandmother and grandfather were born on Norfolk Island. They come down the Knobs line and the Quintal line. These houses were built by the British for the officials of the second British settlement, penal settlement. Norfolk was then ceded to the Pitcairn Islanders, and the Pitcairn Islanders drew lots for these houses as to which family would move into each house. And it's the first generation of Pitcairn Islanders and subsequent ones that have turned these buildings into our homes. We decided to reclaim number 8 because we can see the complete disregard. We've had our voice removed. We have no elected body to talk on behalf of the Norfolk Island people. That's been removed. There's an injustice there. We have never had input into the last 6 years of what would happen down in Kingston. Management plans have been drawn up without community consultations. So it was time for us to start saying, no, enough is enough. These were gifted to the Pitcairn people and the Norfolk descendants. And it's time that we reminded them.
First and most importantly, Norfolk Island people have a connection with all these houses. Every Norfolk Islander that comes down here, they've all got a story in all these houses from their forefathers. We haven't lost that connection to each other or to our homes. This was the house where 3rd generation grandparents lived, Nathaniel and Abby Quintal. It's just an amazing feeling to be connected back to my forefathers. And you walk through the hallways and the rooms and you just feel the moments where you just want to cry sometimes. It's an overwhelming feeling. It's like they're looking over me, looking over all of us down here. And it's just like they welcomed me into their house.
As a Norfolk Islander, I'm descended from quite a few different lines, but this was the home of Arthur Quintal, who was the son of Matthew Quintal off the Bounty. So I'm actually descended through Arthur Quintal through 3 different lines. So this is the home where my Tapuna, my ancestors, where they lived, and this area is known as town to us. It's Kingston or Dana Town. I would like to see the whole town reclaimed by islanders. And at the moment, it's basically the playpen of all the Australian government and their seconded officers. It's not their place, it's our place, and I'd like to see that rectified. This whole area is where our forefathers lived, where they worked, where they played, where they draw their last breath. And I think after 165 years of power and subjugation over us, it's about time that the islanders here start taking a stand and asserting what is their birthright, asserting their general rights and all. Unfortunately, Norfolk Islanders in more recent years, in the last 5 or 6 years, have had to endure excessive acts of colonialism where we have every single vestige of democracy has been removed, where land has been taken away from us, where we have been inundated with immigration, which has attempted to dilute our population. We have basically been treated not only as second-class citizens, but as no citizens. And that the Australian government refused to acknowledge that we even exist. And I think this is the first step in forcing them to acknowledge that we exist as a people and that we definitely have rights here.
I'm Mary Christian Bailey, and I'm here for Peter and for my 4 other children, because they are the heirs of the heritage of this island. And I'm also here for my late husband, who died 18 months ago without seeing justice returned to the island. And I'm here for his mother and father too, who were also both descended from the original occupant of this house after the Pitcairners arrived. His mother in particular was present at the evictions that took place in 1908. When the evictions happened, the people were required to sign a piece of paper to say that their houses didn't belong to them, and she refused to sign it because she believed, and her parents had believed, that the houses were theirs in perpetuity. And she was there present that morning, and she often in her old age used to talk about that day, and she spoke how the administrator's wife came around with a tray of tea and offered her a cup of tea, and she said, no, I could not possibly drink it, because she really believed that that house was hers. They say that the proper document was stolen, but they were led to believe it was theirs to occupy in the same way as they had Pitcairn Island, where they were their own community, in charge of their own community, and they weren't just a simple backward community, they were the first community in the world to have compulsory and free education. They were the first community in the world to have a vote for women since 1838, when Australia was just a collection of penal colonies. They were civilised in the best sense of the word, but they didn't have good legal advice. They didn't really know their rights. They were not simple people, but they were humble people and had lived simple lives, but they didn't really know their rights, so they would sooner leave. And some of them left and burnt the places down because they didn't believe that anyone else had a right to them. But the Norfolk Islanders believed deep down their hearts, and they've been believing it since 1908, when so many of them were evicted, that an injustice was done, the wrong thing was done, and that these are really theirs. I'm not a Norfolk Islander. I've lived here for 55 years, but my in-laws and my husband and my sons and daughter too have taught me that they're a proud people, not in a vain sense, but they're proud because they're a distinct race of people with distinct values, a distinct heritage, distinct identity, which they are in danger of losing as they are forced to become Australians first and Norfolk Islanders second. And that's why I'm here, and I will do whatever it takes to stand up for my family and for these other Norfolk Islanders who I'm so rejoicing that they are finally making a stand and making sure their voice is heard.
As far as I'm concerned, the land belongs to the people that walk on it, not to some foreign entity 1,600 kilometres away. And it's about time they start recognising that the whole occupation of Number 8 is basically to send a clear message that the time has come that we aren't going to put up with your colonial tactics anymore. It's important for me personally to protect the heritage for my children, Mahana and Nalani. If we don't do something now, it'll never happen and it'll be too late. At the moment we have quite brutal policies in place to basically to get rid of the Norfolk Islanders. I know it sounds far-fetched, I know it sounds brutal, but that's actually the policy in place at the moment, and I'm here to protect their heritage, protect their island and protect their future.
This is not about two people taking possession of a house. This is about reminding people that these are Norfolk Island assets, not Commonwealth of Australia assets. These were gifted to the Norfolk Island descendants. Prior to that, the Pitcairn Islanders had arrived in 1856. Some may see this as a very radical step to take, but unfortunately for a long time we have tried to be diplomatic, we have tried to be inclusive, and nothing has happened. In fact, it's gotten worse. We now don't have an elected body to talk for the Norfolk Island people. This was an opportunity to remind people that this is our land. It upsets me that the Norfolk Island people no longer have a voice in our own land. And it has to stop. It has to stop. The colonialisation has to stop. We're tired. We're hurt, deeply hurt, that we will be considered as nothing but a footnote going forward for future generations. We can see massive erosion of our culture and heritage. You only have to read the journals from 1856 as to how much blood, sweat and tears was put into these soils to make a brand new home for these people that they were proud of. And it's up to us to keep that going.